What's doing, everybody? Today is Tuesday, September 17th. A second attempt on President Donald Trump's life comes just 64 days after the previous attempt on his life. The would-be assassin Ryan Routh is officially charged, and former Trump advisor George Papadopoulos joins me on the podcast today to talk all about it. I'm Alec Lace. This is The Alec Lace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to The Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, let's do it. Welcome, everybody, to the Alec Lace Show. I'm happy and honored, as always, to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Wherever you're watching or listening from, don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, comment, leave a review, get involved any way that you can. I'm also streaming today's episode live on Locals. If you want to help support me, support the show, please don't forget to check me out over on Locals. Link below if you're watching on Rumble, link in the description anywhere else. All right, so, when I do these shows just twice a week, it feels like it's been a decade since my last broadcast, which was on Thursday. So much has happened yet again in this political cycle. It's amazing what happens when you step away just for a few minutes here. And what seems like, a year ago here, just last week, I had Maureen Bannon on the podcast. She returned. I had Senator Marsha Blackburn and Congresswoman Victoria Spartz. If you missed out on those interviews and you're interested, flip it back one episode and take a listen. Today, former Trump advisor George Papadopoulos is going to be here with me in just a few minutes to break down all the latest on this unbelievable well, not really unbelievable, because many people have said they're going to keep trying. I was in that playbook of they're not going to just stop after the first attempt. They have tried once again to take out President Donald Trump. George Papadopoulos is going to be here with me to break that all down. Now, a few of you guys, I know Foxoid, Melissa, I believe, Vanessa, several of you guys in the comment section, or the live stream section, I should say, on Rumble, have been putting in some suggestions. One of those suggestions has been Congressman Matt Gaetz. So I want to just make this announcement here real quick that Matt Gaetz is now on the schedule here with me to join me on Thursday. So don't miss out on Thursday's broadcast. I'm going to be here with Congressman Matt Gaetz. I worked hard to try to set this up. It's on the schedule. I know things can change in Congress very quickly, but I have maintained that contact. It's very strong. Hopefully, I will have him here on Thursday. So please keep your suggestions coming. And I really appreciate all your help and all your support. All right, so let's break this down. All right, President Trump, they almost take this guy out again. And, of course, the media tries to downplay this at every angle, just like they did the first time. They try to play it down. Loud noises, popping noises were heard in Butler, Pennsylvania at a Trump rally. Like this one, they came right out of the box and said this was a gang shooting, or two people shooting outside the residence, had nothing to do with Donald Trump. And then that story shifted, and we got a new story that the shots were fired and were aimed at Donald Trump. Then it turns out now we know it was only the Secret Service who fired a shot. Now, this guy, we're going to get into Ryan Routh. Now, they're trying to, of course, the media right away is blaming President Donald Trump himself for almost being killed by this lunatic here. Now, who is this Ryan Routh character, Ryan Wesley Routh? Well, they're trying to tell you that he has an unclear political identity. They've been very clear about letting you know that. His political identity is unclear. The reason they're saying that to you is because this guy is a staunch supporter of the Democrat Party, and it goes without saying. So we'll break down just a few before I bring on George Papadopoulos here of who this guy really is and why his political identity is not such a mystery, okay? This guy in 2024, he's voted, and he voted in the Democrat primary. He donated to the Democrats over 19 times, okay, between 2019 and now. His tweets are filled with anti-Trump rhetoric, and Billboard Chris, if you follow him on Twitter, this guy did a brilliant move. He screen recorded Ryan Routh's entire Twitter history before they nuked this guy's account. They nuked his Facebook account, every other online thing, as they always do with these shooters when they happen. So before they were able to grab this guy's Twitter account, Billboard Chris screen recorded the entire thing. So if you want, you could follow him. It's on there. They may take it down, but he's got it available for download for anybody that wants it. But his tweets, if you go through them, filled with anti-Trump rhetoric. He parroted the famous slogan from Democrats that democracy is on the ballot. He's a Ukraine fanatic. We'll get more into that if you want, because he wrote a book called Ukraine's Unwinnable War. In that book that he wrote, which got just one review or one star on Amazon, he called for Iran to assassinate President Trump in the book, but he's a Ukraine fanatic. You see the pictures of him. He's got the dyed hair in the colors of the Ukraine flag. He was over recruiting people. We're going to get into that in just a second here. But he also, this guy has a Biden-Harris bumper sticker on his personal vehicle parked right in front of his house in Hawaii. So this guy, there is no mystery of an unclear political identity for this guy. It's the media playing games to try to hide the information because they don't want it to be the fact that it's their hateful rhetoric that has really, really incited these people to violence. Now, this guy was waiting for 12 hours. He was waiting from 2 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon outside the golf course in a sniper's perch. Donald Trump decided a last minute to do this golf outing. This wasn't something on the schedule. It wasn't known to the public. So who told this guy that Donald Trump would be golfing that day? And how did he not get spotted for 12 hours? I think the answers to this is clear, is that somebody on the inside is helping out these assassins. We feel that like it happened in Butler. We never got any answers yet from what happened in Butler. A lot of mysterioso going on about what happened in Butler. We have a whistleblower now with the July 13th incident, the assassination attempt in Butler, that's blowing the doors off of the failures of the Secret Service there. And are people complicit that are on the inside? It seems that way in Butler, and it seems this way now. People try to say, oh, well, Trump golfs all the time. You can just wait out there all day and just you'll get lucky. Wrong. This guy was tipped off that Donald Trump was going to be there that day. There's no other way this guy would have just randomly showed up there at the right day and just happened to be one hole ahead of where Donald Trump was headed in that direction. So how did they not spot this guy? He's there for 12 hours now. This guy was a cell that was activated. He didn't act alone. If you think this guy acted alone, I think you are nuts. Ryan Routh, he starred in Ryan Routh, I should say. He starred in a 2022 propaganda video for the Azov Battalion. This is more of the Ukraine nuttiness. The Azov Battalion is a Ukraine militia group with neo-Nazi roots. He was recruiting Taliban fighters to go fight in Ukraine. Again, this guy was a Ukraine lunatic, so you can imagine his enemy is anybody that didn't want to give more funding to Ukraine, and that happens to be all Republicans, not Democrats. Here's another interesting fact about this guy. Ryan Routh in 2002 was arrested for possession of weapons of mass destruction. How many people do you know that have been arrested for weapons of mass destruction, which are categorized as nuclear, radioactive, chemical, biological, weapons that are designed to inflict mass damage? What did he receive as a result of this unknown weapon of mass destruction that he had? Probation. So this guy clearly was tapped in to some type of government agency. Here he is in front of the Capitol. He's been interviewed multiple times by journalists. The one on CBS was openly saying, hey, I texted frequently with this guy. So something is really, really wrong with what's going on with this story, and more is coming out. But now, just to get to the point before I bring George Papadopoulos on here, President Donald Trump was pointing out, which I did as well too. I put a video out on Twitter. Now, the video I put out on Twitter and on Instagram when this happened, it got nuked on TikTok. The same video that I put on these other platforms, TikTok took it down. It got like 5,000 views, 80 likes in and then a few minutes later, I look and the video removed, and it says for integrity, the thing was taken down. Integrity and authenticity, your video was removed. All I was doing was giving the latest information at that point in time for what was going on. So that's why I'm grateful for platforms like X and platforms like Rumble that give you the opportunity to have free speech and to talk about these things in an open forum. But what is going on is this dangerous rhetoric that we are getting from the Democrats is gone way over the top and way out of control. And when you have convinced, now this guy, obviously a Ukraine nut, you dye your hair in the Ukraine colors. You're going over to the freaking Taliban and you're trying to recruit fighters to go fight with you in Ukraine. This guy is a Ukraine maniac. Okay? And if you're a Ukraine maniac like this guy, who is your biggest enemy? Well, your biggest enemy is Putin. And who does the media keep calling Putin's puppet? Russia, Russia, Russia. He's colluding with Russia. Donald Trump. So that makes Donald Trump your sworn enemy, because if Donald Trump becomes elected, the free money bag of taxpayer money that's going to Zelensky comes to an end. So this guy ties into that puzzle somewhere there. I'm no super sleuth, but I smell a rat. Okay, now Donald Trump, getting back to the rhetoric, he blasted out an email with all of these dangerous, all this dangerous crap that's been coming from the Democrat Party. I'll read just through a few of them. I'll put them up on the board. These are from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I'll read these. The rest of the Democrats, you could check them out. Trump has posted them on Truth Social. Kamala Harris, Trump is a threat to our democracy and fundamental freedoms. It's on us to recognize the threat Trump poses. Does one of us has to come out alive? Haha, that was Kamala Harris on Ellen DeGeneres. She was, does one of us have to come out alive? Joe Biden, it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. These are all from Biden here. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Trump is a threat to this nation. There is one existential threat. It's Donald Trump. Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. Trump and MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic, and that is a threat to this country. All right, so you have Tim Walz gets in the act, Nancy Pelosi. He goes through all of these. There's 3 pages worth of these dangerous quotes and dangerous propaganda that has incited the Democrat Party and the Democrat followers and the left-wing lunatics to violence. And we know, and you know, that the left-wing lunatics in your circle are angry, violent people. These are people that when you try to have this conversation politically, they have to either get up and leave the room because they cannot stomach it because their head's going to blow off, or they argue with you and then they become violent. And that's the way that the left-wing lunatics are. And we have 2 assassination attempts 64 days apart. Now, as far as I've looked, the only other president that has had 2 attempts on was Gerald Ford. Those came 17 days apart back in 1975. From what I understand, Trump is only the 2nd president to have 2 attempts on his life. Now, again, they charged this guy with a weapons charge. And what is he going to do? Get some more probation? But he needs to be charged with attempting to assassinate the president. So I'm sure more charges are coming, if not have done so already here. But don't forget, you have the same FBI to be investigating this that just raided Trump's house that's 4 miles away from where this attempt happened. So you think we're really going to get to the bottom of it? Anyway, let's get to the bottom of the latest of it, because we're going to talk about more of this in detail now with the latest, with what's going on with the 2nd assassination attempt of President Donald Trump with George Papadopoulos. He is a best-selling author of the book Deep State Target: How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the Plot to Bring Down President Trump. This was all about Russiagate, Russia, Russia, Russia. So we're gonna really take a dive into all this stuff here. He's a former advisor to President Donald Trump, and he's the first campaign advisor that was sentenced and the first one to serve in time in prison. So I'm honored to get him back on the podcast. This is the 2nd time I've had him on. So let's do this. George Papadopoulos coming up.
You're listening to the Alec Lake Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, George Papadopoulos. Welcome back to the Alec Lay Show.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Well, a pleasure to have you here. Let me just get your take right off the hibbity here. We got the 2nd assassination attempt on the life of President Donald Trump. What was your initial reaction to this whole thing?
Yeah, look, my initial reaction to this was that this was the culmination of a long, systematic approach to not only lawfare against the former president, but also incitement to violence. We've seen this pattern. It's a disturbing pattern we've seen over the past year. This rhetoric has continued to heat up, especially from President Biden, all the way down to the mainstream media. This ticking time bomb was meant to explode. It has, and we now have seen 2 attempted assassination plots against an ex-president in a matter of months.
Yeah, just before you came on, I was reading some of that hateful rhetoric. We even after this happened last night, we had Hillary Clinton come out, despite all this that just happened. She still says, she gets on national TV and says Trump is a dictator. The press needs to create a consistent narrative about how dangerous he is. So despite the fact that this happened again, she continues to ratchet up that type of rhetoric.
Yeah, and this is all they really have, right? At this point, they have no policies. They don't have a superstar candidate or candidates. Their party is in a state in a downward spiral. They're in basically an identity crisis. They don't know if they want to go extreme left along the likes of AOC and some of these on the squad. If they wanted a guy like Biden at the helm. So now they have this younger version of older version of AOC basically running the candidacy in Kamala Harris, and she's a complete disaster. She's losing in every poll imaginable, and now with the major scandal that allegedly came out regarding the ABC debate, this was, just another way for them to deflect from that. I'm not saying that they were part of this plot, obviously, but just continue escalating this rhetoric against the president. You're probably going to continue to see this moving forward to distract from their own failures.
I'm going to get more into the ABC whistleblower thing in just a second, but I wanted to get your take on this because I strongly feel that although this guy was radicalized, we know he was a nut, a Ukraine nut. I want to get into more of that too, but I don't feel that this guy acted alone. I feel like this guy must have had some help, not just because I know we say, how did he know Trump was golfing? Let's just assume that he took a wild guess and was. How did he know that particular part in the tree line that he went to, there wasn't going to be cameras facing that direction? How did he know there wasn't going to be no drones in the air? How did he know no dogs were going to be sniffing in that area? Like, it seems like he just picked the right spot where he knew there was no cameras going to be seeing him for more than 12 hours. I mean, that seems kind of suspicious.
Yeah, look, I think your point is logical, right? And it's not even like baseless because every single real plot against the ex-president has, in one way or another, had the fingerprint of some sort of intelligence agency associated to it, right? From Crossfire Hurricane to the 51 intelligence officers suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020. You also had reports during January 6th of various Fed informants involved in that whole fiasco. Then you had the impeachment 1.0, where you had this CIA affiliated individual leaking phone calls. Then, of course, you had the first assassination attempt where they're revealing information that he had encrypted bank accounts or some sort of affiliation with groups abroad. And now this guy, he's coming out publicly saying, I'm a diehard Ukraine supporter. He was actually out in Ukraine or Romania giving interviews about how he was recruiting fighters out there, how he hated what the Republicans were doing to Ukraine. So all of these have one thing in common, and that is they either have the fingerprints of domestic intelligence or foreign intelligence. So that's in my assumption, completely correct.
And even so, one of the things I know Breitbart reported this because I was looking this up this morning, and they reported that media paparazzi have claimed that they've utilized that spot over there to use their photos to get pictures of Trump, but they've always notified the Secret Service that they're going to be on the premises. So obviously they don't get, their heads blown off, but they've utilized that spot. And so we also know that this guy has been in contact with the media. The one lady on CBS says, I was frequently texting with him. He'd done multiple interviews with the media. So it could even be somebody, a mole, not essentially in the Secret Service, or it could be somebody within the media that could have been working with this guy to say, hey, here's a spot we've used in the past. I mean, it just seems like somebody had to tip this guy off on where to go to line up for this shot.
Yeah, look, I don't think this guy acted alone. I think at this level, and especially this kind of preparation that went into what you're describing right here, either somebody tipped him off, either there was a mole, or a combination of the two, right? Fortunately, Secret Service acted in a timely manner. The president is safe. That's the priority. We want to make sure that President Trump and his family are safe and secure. That, of course, did happen. The president later came out on Truth Social and posted a defiant post like 0 for 2, meaning you've tried twice, you can't get me. So I love the defiance, but also this is a dangerous moment in American history. This is probably the most divided America has ever been. And this is exactly what the Democrats want going into November's election. They want people feeling fearful. They want people feeling divided from their neighbor based on race, ethnicity, creed, political affiliation, so that they're easier to control. So this is the situation, unfortunately, I think we're going to have. And with Donald Trump as an ultimate unifier, hopefully America could heal moving forward.
Yeah, well said, George. And just to get to the more of the Ukraine ties into where I know you wrote the book Deep State Target. Obviously, you know more than anybody about the Russia gate, Russia collusion. When you've had the media talking about the Russia gate. Trump is Putin's puppet. And if you are a Ukraine loyalist, like this guy obviously was, he's going over to Ukraine, recruiting the freaking Taliban to go fight over there. This guy was a Ukraine maniac. And so when you're telling everybody that, Trump is Putin's puppet, if Trump gets in, he's going to seek a peace deal and he's going to give Putin everything he wants. So this guy is obviously radicalized to go and say, hey, Trump is our biggest threat. The money train's going to stop and everything's going to be over. So you got a guy like this. I mean, it seems like the Russia play could have been very big into how the media combined with this guy's craziness for Ukraine could have created a disaster.
Yeah, look, the military-industrial complex, or the deep state, whatever you want to call it, has been itching for a war with Russia for a very long time. Going back to 2016 with Trump and the whole Russia investigation, that wasn't even an investigation. That was literally a CIA operation along with foreign intelligence, including British intelligence. And this isn't something I wrote in my book only. This has now been confirmed in the New York Post. Matt Taibbi did an incredible report about this last April. I highly recommend your viewers to check it out. So when it comes into the whole Russia narrative, of course, anything that went against promoting peace with Russia and the United States, like Donald Trump wanted to, or even being a tough negotiator like Trump wants to be now and before, that goes against the narrative. So, of course, you have people radicalized based on what the mainstream media says, that Trump's a Putin puppet, that Russia's the biggest threat to America. Remember when inflation was at a 40-year high? They were blaming it all on Putin. That wasn't too long ago. That was about a year ago. Everything was Putin's fault. So when you put all of these factors in together and the radicalization and people wanting to be part of something bigger than they are, especially losers like this guy, that's like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And that's exactly what just happened here. So cut the negative rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric, and stop this nonsense about supporting Ukraine as part of this global international peace structure that benefits America. Because at this point, it simply doesn't. And American soldiers are likely heading into World War III the way we're going.
Yeah, and it's going to be a disaster. And this guy, too, it's another one of these cases. There's like one of the most popular memes is made about this. This guy was known to the FBI. He was on the FBI's radar. Back in 2002, he had weapons of mass destruction. And so he got charges for that, but just probation. So they found more weapons of mass destruction in this guy's house than they did in Iraq back in 2002. Okay, but he's on the radar. He's got multiple gun charges. They have this guy's like right in their crosshair. So either, it makes you think like if this guy had weapons of mass destruction, he's only got a probation. Did he immediately begin working for intelligence? Did he become an asset at that point? What happened? Like, how did he go through all these charges and still manage to get this close to the president? Some of the stuff just makes you raise your eyebrows, man.
No, it really does, Alec, and also that he not only was he able to get that close to the president, but also that he's been on the so-called FBI watch list. You have people like Tulsi Gabbard, who the day after she completely annihilates Kamala Harris during the presidential debate that they had, she goes on some sort of terror watch list where I guess she's still on there as a former congresswoman and a former military personnel, while this guy is out running amok, having some sort of day job where he's making some money. He's traveling freely to Romania, to Ukraine. He's recruiting fighters, but no one stops him or even interrogates him, and he's able to get that close. Something's fishy here. And let me land on this, Alec. That's why I was so happy to see Governor DeSantis come out and say that Florida is actually going to run this investigation under the auspice of the Attorney General of Florida and not the FBI. And I think that's exactly where this investigation has to go. It has to stay in local hands and has to stay as far away as possible from the FBI at this point.
I was going to bring that up because I had this quote from this morning. In my judgment, it's not in the best interest of our state or our nation that the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump are leading this investigation. I think it's brilliantly put. Well, I mean, these guys. The same FBI raided his house 4 miles away from where the incident happened. Now they're going to be in charge of the investigation. So I think this is big from Ron DeSantis. I think people agree. These people have been targeting President Donald Trump, like you mentioned, the intelligence agencies, 51 of them with the Biden laptop. We've seen them raid his home. So why in the world would we trust that they're going to give us a fair investigation into this attempt on his life? I mean, it just seems natural that they should be removed from that.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's like let's call it a conflict of interest, right? Usually when a judge has like some sort of issue, he recuses himself or she recuses themselves from a case. In this point, the FBI has a tremendous conflict of interest when it comes to do with anything with Donald Trump, his team, his family. Not only did they raid him, he's been indicted, convicted. His team has been raided, convicted, indicted. They've put the country through hell and back. with all of these various witch hunts, investigations, wiretapping, you name it. Unfortunately, they can't be trusted to conduct a thorough and fair investigation. Their popularity level among conservatives, I think, is at a historic low. And I think for the betterment of the country and even the FBI at this point, because of the generational issues that they've self-inflicted themselves with because of all this activity that we've discussed, it's better that they're not part of this investigation.
There's no doubt. And we still don't have the answers to their first assassination attempt in Butler. And I wanted to bring this up too. Senator Josh Hawley has this whistleblower, and he brings up these points that the lead agent that was responsible for the entire Butler visit, including the rally, failed key examinations during the federal law enforcement training. So they were unequipped there. The Secret Service intelligence units were absent from the Butler, were unable to answer basic questions about the security of the Butler site. So it just seems like this was a failure of epic proportions. And it almost seems like it couldn't have failed that bad unless it was intentional or on purpose. But what more do we know about the Butler incident that happened just 64 days prior to this second attempt?
Well, that's like exhibit A of like various cover-ups, right? It's been 64 days and we have more questions than answers at this point. You've actually had members of Congress attempt to do a more thorough investigation than apparently the FBI has even done. The FBI, I think it was Director Wray came out the day after the assassination attempt. He had some sort of hearing. He said, we're going to get to the bottom of this. The FBI is cooperating. We're doing everything we possibly can. We have no answers. They just said we were able to get into the guy's phone, yet they haven't publicly disseminated any of that information to the American people. Usually when there's an assassination attempt, it's in the global interest, especially the American interest, to have this information out there. We obviously saw with the whole JFK assassination files, how sensitive that whole thing is, how Trump is now talking about potentially declassifying that. You had Reagan, there was an attempted assassination against him. We had more information about that. But when it comes to Donald Trump, we don't have anything. And that's something that it just like continues this disturbing pattern of cover up after cover up after cover up. And that makes a lack of trust from the American people in these institutions that we hold dear to us and believe that they're there to protect us and to assure that this stuff doesn't happen. But it's not that way in America today.
And we don't have the power of the press helping us out at all because they have been completely silent. You wouldn't even know about that first attempt anymore. They don't bring it up. It wasn't even brought up at the debate. No one cares about that. They've moved on. You even have people talk about conspiracy theorists. They accuse us of always being. They say, "Oh, Trump faked it. He had fake blood on his ear." You have all these nut jobs out there, and the media that's supposed to be the investigative journalists have completely abandoned the Butler rally one. And now this one, you got people online saying, "Oh, he didn't even take a shot at Trump," and they're downplaying the fact. The USA Today only had a little blurb in the top corner of their newspaper the next day to say what happened. It's like we know damn well that if this was the other way around, and if this had happened to Kamala, Biden, Obama, this thing would be exploding all over the press, and they would have answers immediately because they would sic every single intelligence source that they had to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, they really would. And what really goes against them as well is, first of all, they hate Donald Trump. So that's obviously why they're not covering this the way they would have another president or ex-president. But also this guy's, alleged assassin's connections to Ukraine, right? They've bought the whole Ukraine narrative hook, line, and sinker. So the moment anything negative comes out about Ukraine and this guy's connections to who knows what kind of groups out there, what kind of money he might be getting from there. I mean, these are all questions that we need to find out moving forward, right? If anything connects this guy to a paid hit from Ukraine on Donald Trump, it's game over when it comes to this narrative. And I think that is likely what happened here. I'm just going with what I saw from this guy's videos, the radicalization of him, how he was abroad, how he was recruiting fighters. An average Joe doesn't have that type of muscle. Doesn't have that type of connection to a foreign country unless somebody from that foreign country is investing in that type of person. You know what I mean? So based on what I've seen, I think that's likely what we're going to see. And also going back to the first shooter, when they were talking about foreign bank accounts and encryption and all that, they were trying to tie him to Iran immediately because that fits a narrative. Remember, they said, oh, it was probably Iran. You had Mike Pompeo and some of these other guys who have been itching for war with Iran. Oh, it was the Iranians. With Ukraine now, they're trying just to bury this. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this thing goes.
Brilliant point, George. And you kind of worry about the next. I feel like there will be a next time. You kind of worry that they set this up where it looks like it's an Iranian guy just to give us the excuse to go and do it. I mean, just like the weapons of mass destruction, they need that itch to go and scratch it. So it's very scary. Plus, like you said, this guy, they show his house, his broken down car. He's got $300 in his bank account. Yet he's flying all over the world. He's recruiting Taliban members. Like, where's someone's funding this guy? Someone had to be giving this money. Not your average construction guy that doesn't have the resources to just go overseas and start recruiting Taliban members. I mean, this guy, somebody plugged this guy into this system here. This was no just random Joe.
Yeah, no, I mean, you just nailed it on the head, right? Just look at the guy's background. In any case, right, if this was happening, this guy would have been under some sort of investigation just simply based on his extensive travel abroad and what he was doing publicly. I mean, he was on Newsweek for going out and saying what he was doing, basically illegal activities, right? Newsweek was interviewing this guy, yet somehow he didn't go under the radar of the FBI. Well, allegedly he did, but he was able to get close to Donald Trump. So the whole thing is very murky. It's very bizarre. I do believe, just based on what I've seen, this guy has extremely close connections to probably foreign intelligence, likely Ukrainian intelligence, and somebody was funding this guy. You just mentioned the guy had a broken down car, barely making ends meet. A flight to Europe from anywhere in America is a minimum of $1,000 just to get over there on a one-way ticket. Then you have hotels, food, you need some language skills, you need somebody to introduce you to people, how to recruit. I mean, the whole thing was orchestrated as far as I can see. And, the only good thing about this whole situation is not only is Donald Trump safe, but they caught this guy alive. Yeah. They got to make him talk.
Yeah, I wish they'd let like General Flynn do the interrogation or something like that. Like we need some real somebody to really put the screws to this guy. I wanted to get to this, George. Now it seems like now the debate happened a year ago. Like it's like that's how crazy this news cycle has been during this political year. But everyone kind of had that feeling. And then when you watch the debate, it was obvious that they were doing everything to protect Kamala Harris and everything to put the pressure on Donald Trump. And then we have this ABC whistleblower come out with a signed sworn affidavit saying that she was given the questions ahead of time and there was a promise to not fact check her and to only fact check Trump. What do you make of this? Is this whistleblower? Is this legit? And what do you make of it?
Look, this alleged affidavit, which I've posted on my X account, others have posted about, it's actually gone very viral, right? I think it's had over 10 million views total from all the accounts that have posted it. This was a signed affidavit on September 9th, the day before the debate on September 10th, which I think increases the credibility of this affidavit and also of this alleged whistleblower. And it details all of basically the process that we saw going into this debate, right? From the questions to how this person, how Harris was answering them, how they were targeting Trump, how they were only fact checking Donald Trump but not Kamala Harris. And you even had the debate moderators come out and say, yeah, we were instructed to only fact check Donald Trump. So they've actually come out and substantiated one claim. They've also not even commented on the other parts of this affidavit, which is very fishy, right? You've had even other people like Bill Ackman, some others questioning ABC, like, what's going on here? Why are you not being transparent? If it was a conspiracy theory or if this was complete bogus, they would come out, make a statement through one of their high-profile lawyers, say this is completely baseless. We have no idea what this is, and the news cycle will move on. Their silence is deafening, and that's what I think about it.
Yeah, really good point, George. And I think too that the one thing about her, do not bring up her brother-in-law, who's got all these kind of investigations and embezzlement and all this stuff. I wasn't even aware of that guy until I seen that, and then I started looking. I said, "Oh yeah, look at this!" Like it was something that I opened. I was like, "Okay, that's something that I didn't know about," and it was in there. So, but it just seems like too, George, the way that they've radicalized all these people, they feel like it's justified. So what? They gave her the questions. Whatever it takes to beat Donald Trump is necessary, because when you paint this guy like Hitler, when you paint them like Putin's puppet, then of course you're justified in trying to take the guy out, because who wouldn't want to go back in time and kill Hitler before he took over Germany, right? Or tried to take over the world, whatever they want to say. Or who wouldn't want to go back in time and try to do that? So when you paint Trump like that, everyone kind of feels justified in throwing all the rules out the window, whatever it takes to get this guy. So they don't care whether you cheat or not.
Yeah, and that's why fighting back against narratives with facts and emotions is so important, because let's just go back to Russiagate, right? If we didn't fight back against the establishment narrative back then, we'd probably have a completely different country today. I don't even think Trump would have survived a first year in office, let alone had a successful 4 years. So with this situation, you're absolutely right. Then the narrative has been completely dismantled against Russiagate. So they had to create new narratives, right? From impeachment to January 6th, all this kind of stuff. And now, of course, with this, Trump is bad, stop him at all costs, has resulted directly to these two assassination attempts. And of course, the foreign intelligence and all these other things we've been talking about here. So this is why shows like yours, Fox, Newsmax, OAN, other podcasters, X that Elon Musk recently purchased are so critical, and I think are the only things moving the needle during this election, because the mainstream media is going to suppress all of these facts. Donald Trump, I'll just give you one example. He gave this interview in Chicago to that journalist, a society or whatever it was. It was like this heated exchange, but the reporters asking him questions were like living in like 2018. The way they were asking questions, it was like all the information about Donald Trump that they had heard of was just like in an echo chamber. Donald Trump fought back. He went against that narrative, and that's what he has to continue to do. And people like you and others have to continue to get the truth out about Donald Trump and to stop this nonsense from continuing. Because once the American people know who the real Donald Trump is, not only are they going to vote for him, but they're going to support him and understand that he is the only choice for America this election and the future to turn this country around and to make it great again.
Well said, George. And just to your point, when even during the debate, they're talking about the Central Park 5, 40-year-ago case, and people are struggling to put food on the table. Last thing, just to kind of close it out here, George, put your advisor cap on here. We're steamrolling towards November. It's only the days are getting shorter till Election Day. If you're in the room here, what do you advise Trump to do here? This guy, is he to continue to do these public rallies? Does this second attempt alter him in any way? How do you think Trump should play it from now until Election Day? What would you say to him?
Yeah, this is something I've been saying now for a while. First and foremost, his safety is the priority, right? I don't really think that these outdoor rallies are going to benefit him at this point. I think it's a massive security risk, especially going into October. We've seen historically what happens during the election season in October. There's always an October surprise. So I think these people will go to any extent to stop him. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think he has to do now is get more surrogates on the campaign trail. I think it's time for him to go out and tell the American people who his attorney general pick is going to be, his CIA director pick, FBI director, and director of national intelligence, and get these people out there and to tell the American people, this is going to be my administration. This is how we're going to take down the administrative state. This is how we're going to heal America. And this is how we're going to make sure that these type of rhetoric that went into these assassination attempts will never happen again, whether you're on the left or the right, because at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We don't want to see any presidents harmed. And we want to make sure that whoever is elected is done fairly, squarely, and without the media or the intelligence community interfering in that process. So that's what I would recommend him do.
Yeah, bullseye. I love that. I wish he would do that, because we're all kind of dying to know who he would select in those roles and stuff too, especially since the last administration, there was so many talk about moles or people in there to undermine him. We saw that in that last administration. George Papadopoulos, I could talk to you all day about this. Thank you so much. Love to have you back down the line. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the Alec Show.
Anytime. Thanks so much.
All right, honored to have George Papadopoulos back on the podcast. What you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. This stuff, and again, I think that it's the New York Post put this article out, headline out, and it says here, did Ryan Routh have inside info on Trump's movements? Ex-FBI official calls possibilities scary. Did Ryan Routh have inside info on Trump's movement? Of course! Of course he had inside information. There's no other way that this whole thing goes down. You don't just get access to when Trump's going to be on the golf course and what time, what day to be there. What do you think? This guy there every single day waiting in the bushes and the Secret Service missed him? That's even going to look worse for the Secret Service. This guy picked that particular day, set up a sniper's nest because he knew Donald Trump was going to go golfing. It wasn't like, oh, he sees the motorcade going and then he went there. He was waiting there the night before that he knew Trump was going to be there. So there is a big problem. Somebody inside the Trump organization or inside the Trump administration, inside the Trump Secret Service, somewhere close to Trump, there is a problem going on. We've seen that throughout his administration at the White House. How many people were in there to undermine President Trump? Now, not at the capacity that those that were in charge with saving his life. But to how many of the people came out of that administration, you found out these weren't people that were loyal to Trump. These were people that hate Donald Trump. And they got close to him in the White House, in positions of power and authority, and positions to advise him, and positions of power inside the White House. And they were there to undermine him. So if they could do it there, you better believe they can do it everywhere. And they have seemed to have infiltrated one of the walls of protection for President Donald Trump. And of course, they say now, oh, he'll get the full board of security. Well, why wasn't he given that in the first place? Why is he not the most protected man? He's the most, I would say, nobody else in the country has a target on their back the way Donald Trump does. They're not targeting Kamala Harris. She poses no threat to the globalists or to these lunatics that want to take over and destroy our country. She doesn't post any threat to all this stuff. Neither does Biden. Nobody cares about taking these people out. It's President Donald Trump. He's a threat to the people that want to destroy our country, and that's why they're trying to destroy him. Again, look at all these past presidents. George Bush, he's not supporting President Donald Trump. No, none of them are. So you have 30-something years, you've had 4 years of Trump, and they all blame Trump for everything that's happened. Oh, Trump's the problem. But I will say this. Here's something to be positive about, and take this with you. I think it's a very important point. Both assassination attempts of President Donald Trump came on very important days of our Blessed Mother. Okay, July 13th in Butler was the third apparition of Our Lady of Fatima, which is a huge day in the Catholic Church. July 13th, it's, we have Our Lady of Fatima, the third vision. This year, we celebrate that on July 13th. July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump miraculously survived a gunshot grazing to his ear and survived multiple shots that were flying all around that place. September 15th, which was Sunday, when they tried to take him out again, it was the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. So there's no doubt that there is some type of divine intervention here, God watching out for Trump. And of course, people try to hammer you on this and be like, oh, well, if God's looking out for Trump, how come other people were shot and killed in the crowd that day? You have no idea what your purpose is here on earth. And you have no idea what God has in store for you. God's work through Donald Trump is not complete yet. So he's here until that work is complete. And that's what's going on. Nobody knows the answer to any of these questions. And I put the picture up right there of this was at the Butler, Pennsylvania. Sean Parnell talked about this being there and the flag being twisted into the sign of the cross, flying over President Trump at that stage. There's no doubt that God has his hand on President Donald Trump, and he is watching over our country right here in America, because this country is founded on these Christian principles, and it is a Jesus Christ first country that was built here in this country, and we build it with those Christian values, and we will be a Christian nation once again. Make no mistake about it. The other side wants to destroy everything that's good about Christianity, and we have got a problem with Christianity, Catholics, not being able to stand up for their faith and for what they believe in. But I think you are going to see a monumental shift in that, because it's going to be forced upon them. Many are staying silent until the time where they can't stay silent no more. And I think we are speeding in a runaway train towards a disaster in this country on November 5th. And it's no matter which way this election goes, we are speeding towards a disaster. And I think once the call comes, you will see Christians rise up in this country. But unfortunately, they've been quiet for way too long and have allowed all this stuff going on. Plus, the Catholic Church itself, the leadership from the Catholic Church has, and I am totally in disagreement with Pope Francis. I've had Father Frank Pavone on here a couple of times to talk about that. So we are going to be really at just it's going to be one of the most important times in our country's history. It's going to be right up there with the Revolutionary War, with the Civil War. I mean, what we are facing that's coming up at the end of this year is going to be one for the history books. It's going to rewrite the future of this country. And we are going to see if we are going to be a Christian nation or if we're going to be a communist one. And I think that's what's going to come out as a result of those of what happens on November 5th and the immediate months following. And I pray for President Donald Trump and his family. This guy is really, they are coming after him because he is a threat to their plan to destroy this country. There's no question about it. And just a quick point, too. People talking about that story there, too, with the people eating the pets and the Haitians over in Ohio. They were saying that, Trump's rhetoric and J.D. Vance's rhetoric about a story that's factual, that anybody that has any kind of journalistic integrity or wants to hear the truth could easily see that this is what's going on in that community and what's going on in Ohio. Okay? Governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, shot down the reports that 33 bomb threats, they were hoaxes, they came from overseas. This had nothing to do with anything. What we do know is the people of that town of Springfield are suffering because Biden and Harris shipped in 20,000 illegal immigrants. And that's getting lost in the entire story. So anyway, again, as I mentioned at the top of the program, don't forget I'm streaming this live on my locals. If you want to support what I'm doing here, if you like what you're seeing, if you like what you're hearing, don't forget to follow where you are and come check me out on locals. I'm going to try to start doing some question and answer periods over there after each broadcast and some other fun things. All right, so follow me on the locals, show your support if you decide to do so. And I always appreciate your support. As I said, Thursday, I am scheduled to have Congressman Matt Gaetz joining me here on the podcast. So make sure you bring it back for that one. That one's going to be good. I've been working hard to set that up, and I'm looking forward to having Matt Gaetz on the podcast. I think he's one of the fighters that we need in there. I think he's somebody, I think what he did was historic by getting rid of Kevin McCarthy as the speaker. A lot of people were very skeptical of that move going on. Unfortunately, we got this Mike Johnson who seems like kind of like a sidestep to the same kind of character. He is a little bit of an improvement, maybe. I don't know. What's your suggestion? Put something down in the comment. Mike Johnson, improvement, little bit, sidestep, or negative compared to Kevin McCarthy. And again, the House and the Senate going to be crucial to moving forward with this country. So we're going to see what happens with that. We got our eye on a lot of races. I'm going to be doing my best from now till November to get on as many candidates also that are right now running for either Senate or Congress. I've had a bunch of them on the podcast already. Again, if you are new to the podcast, please take a second to go through whatever channel that you're listening on, whatever platform that you're listening to this show or watching it on, and scroll through the archives and see so many of the guests that have joined me here on the podcast. You see some of them on the board. I got to change the board out. I do it randomly, but Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Eli Crane, Laura Trump, Anna Paulina Luna, Dinesh D'Souza, Roger Stone, General Flynn, Darren Beatty, and on and on and on. Rob O'Neill, Mike Lindell, Congressman Jim Jordan. They've all come by this podcast to talk to me about what is going on, to talk to us about what's going on. And who are us? Who are we? We are just the regular people that are in love with this country and are sick and tired of seeing it getting raped by these freaking Marxists and communists that have taken over our country, flooded it with illegals, pumped up our prices, taken away so much of our freedoms, and we are sick and tired of it. That's how I am. Middle class, working American, married, father of 4 kids that just wants to live and enjoy my family, my life, my job, and my country. And that's what I want to do. And right now, we can't do that because of these maniacs on the left with their bullshit, with this transgenderism that they've shoved down your throats. And that's just the beginning of it. And everyone's tired of it. So we are going to turn this all around. We're going to take our country back. It's going to start with things like this here. And I appreciate you being on board. I appreciate your support. Again, I'm a blue-collar guy, railroad mechanic, going on 25 years doing that. I pop in twice a week to do this show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when I do the live stream. It goes up on Rumble first. If you're not following me on Rumble, please consider getting over to Rumble. It's one of those few free speech platforms that are left. Rumble and X are the last 2 standing. Other than that, it's all over. Facebook, done. Meta, done. Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all of it is shot. It's X and Rumble right now. So make sure you're following on that platform. Hopefully, I put these things up on YouTube. I don't know how long it'll stay up there. I pray it'll stay so we can reach as many people as possible. But please share the broadcast with everybody that you have in your contact list that's like-minded. Let's reach as many people as we can. I try to focus so much here on how this is affecting the parents in this country because I really think the future of this country is going to be the parents. It's going to be family. It's going to be the nuclear family, moms and dads raising their kids. We are in a population decline. Young people not getting married. Young people not having families, not starting families. We've got to change that mindset. And we're not going to do it with these left-wing lunatics who hate the nuclear family, who hate men in general, who think men have no seat at the table symbol of the family, who they've made portrayed as the weakest person on the planet in every movie that they create in Hollywood. So many things need to change in our country, but it's going to start, hopefully, November 5th, which I said is going to be an explosive moment in our nation's history. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'm honored to have had George Papadopoulos. Special thanks to him for coming back to the podcast. Bring it back here Thursday. Going to have Congressman Matt Gaetz. He's on the schedule to join me. So make sure you get down there, leave a like, leave a comment, follow the channel wherever you're listening to, and bring it back on Thursday, all right? God bless all you parents and you listeners out there. God bless our police, first responders. God bless our military, veterans. God bless America. And I'll catch you guys on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. God bless.
You're listening to the Alec Lake Show. The future is family.
Promo code FATHERHOOD. Go to mypillow.com and everything we have on sale there. Actually, we brought in the percale sheets. The queen size, $34.98 a set. King size, $39.98 a set. That's unheard of. It's the lowest price in history. And everything else on there that we have, you can save up to 80%. We don't have any middlemen. We don't have box stores and stuff. They canceled on MyPillow. They even canceled my book to get my book out, you know. So use that promo code FATHERHOOD, everybody, and please help us out, and thanks for ones that you have already helped out. And by the way, you'll be helping yourself to the best sleep in history, period.
I got to tell you, that mattress topper is the best product I have in the house, Mike, no doubt.
And that turns any bed into the best bed in history. If you've got an old bed, new bed, doesn't matter. You put the mattress topper on there, and it changes everything. You need a different input to get a different output. People waking up every day going, maybe my bed will be better tonight. No, you need a MyPillow mattress.